One of the challenges when we learn Sefer Vayikra and certainly Parshas Vayikra, challenge that we have is trying to make it applicable, practical to our lives. The reason why it's challenging is that the majority of Parshas Vayikra is about korbanos, the sacrifices that were brought in the time of the Mishkan, later on in the Beis Hamikdash. Sacrifices aren't applicable now. So the Gemara tells us that back when sacrifices, korbanos, were brought, then it was those korbanos that were mechaper, that atoned for a person's sins. In other words, if a person sinned, they brought a korban, for example, a korban chatas, a sin offering to the Beis Hamikdash, and that way they atoned for their sin. So the Gemara explains that now we no longer have the Beis Hamikdash. How does a person achieve atonement? Shulchano shel Adam, a table, person's table, is the way by which they achieve atonement, by virtue of what they do at their table, by virtue of having guests at their table, those who are in need at their table. That way they can be mechaper. So if the table is considered to be the place upon which a person gains atonement, then the table is compared to a mizbeach, just as the mizbeach, the altar, was the place where atonement was achieved in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. And that means that the food on the table is considered to be the offering, the actual korbanos themselves. So one of the halachos that apply to every single korban that we still continue to keep today as a custom is al kol korbancha takriv melach. Every korban, every sacrifice that was brought had salt sprinkled on the sacrifice. And there are a number of explanations and reasons as to why. I would like to share with you the suggestion of Rav Zalman Sorotzkin, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, in his Sefer Oznayim LeTorah. And he says as follows: when a person brought a korban, whether a person brought an animal or a person brought a korban mincha for those who couldn't afford an animal, let's say they brought a little bird if they couldn't afford a larger animal, the person was making an investment. They were giving of themselves, they were giving of their own bank account in order to give to Hashem. And at times, people were concerned. They didn't know how much they could afford. And maybe even in their mind, when they could afford, they were thinking, I'm going to spend so much on bringing korbanos. What am I gaining? How much should I bring? Is it too much? What's the balance? And so he explains that's why there was salt which was sprinkled on the korbanos, so that a person can see the salt and recognize that salt is a preservative. If a person truly wants to preserve their money, then what they have to realize is that when they give of it, they are really preserving it. When a person gives a korban to Hashem, Hashem responds by giving back to the individual, by giving back to the person. So applicable to us on our level is the mitzvah of tzedakah. The more that we are willing to give of our own, even though when we give tzedakah, whether it's our credit card bill goes higher or our bank account becomes a little bit more depleted, and we may think to ourselves that this is not good, I'm losing. The truth is that the salt reminds us that the action that we are taking by giving is really preserving our financial health in the future, because the more that we give, the more that Kadosh Baruch Hu responds and gives to us in blessing, in bracha. And so says Rav Sorotzkin, that's the reason why the salt was sprinkled on every single korban, so that a person would not hesitate in thinking that they were going to lose by bringing a korban, but would understand that preserve their financial health and wealth into the future, a preservative was the giving to Hashem. So as we enter a period of time where there is Matanos Le'Evyonim to bring for the mitzvah of Purim, there is Maos Chitim to bring as one of the mitzvahs in preparation for Pesach, let's keep in mind that all that we spend on Yom Tovim are expensive, but let's keep in mind that we should always have other people who are in need at the top of our list when it comes to spending for Purim, spending for Yom Tov, and we should all be blessed that as we give, Hashem responds and sees our giving and makes sure that we're always on the better side of giving tzedakah. Thank you for listening, and have a good Shabbos.